Hey, this is Sam from BIM. Today we're going to be looking at COBie and analyzing and comparing that data in Power BI to see if it's matching our Revit data. So COBie is generally made by filling a bunch of instance data and then it's transferred into Excel. Now, obviously in Excel, it's kind of like a secret database and we can't really explore it as a database. So we need to bring it into other software. And what better software to do this than in Power BI, especially when we already have the support for all of the model through Vim to bring the data in there. So what we've done, let's take a quick technical look. So we have the Vim data model in here, and we've integrated at the top right the COBie data model, and now we have a perfect relationship, and we can compare everything one-to-one to see if it's matching. So the first thing we're going to need to see is what's present in Revit present in COBie and vice versa. So here we have everything in Revit that's physical, and we can see there's some mismatches. So for example, there's 124 Revit caseworks, but there's only 120 COBie caseworks. So obviously that means there's a difference of 4. We see very quickly that none of the ceilings in Revit have been categorized inside of COBie. And we can look at the data, the other side of things. So we have elements in COBie. We have less elements in COBie, right? Let's say 4,000. And there's one of them that's missing from that is in COBie, but is not inside of Revit. Now, if you have a sharp eagle eye, you'll notice that it's the diffuser and registers and grills. But we're going to go to the next report where we're going to look at only what is missing. So here's our return diffuser and grill. And here, everything that is in Revit but is not in COBie. So once again, the ceilings, one door, for example, and so forth. All right, now the next thing we want to know is the data inside of Revit matching the data inside of COBie and vice versa? So we could look at particular parameters, but if we are just looking at all of the parameters, what we've done is we've counted the number of time the data is mismatching, and we've counted the number of time the data is matching, and then we give kind of a score, right? So number of matches minus number of mismatches. So the lower the score, the more data is missing, and we can see that, for example, the doors just have a bunch of data missing. And if we kind of look for anything green, right, because we've color coded this based on the score, we're going to see that there's very few values where the parameter, the element has more things that are right than things that are wrong. So we see here, for example, there's more things that are right than things that are wrong because it is green. And of course, if we look at the pie chart, we see that most of the parameters do not match. It's only, frankly, a 3% match. So quite a low data quality from this COBie file compared to the Revit model. Now let's dig deeper into this. We are looking at only the mismatches in this case, and we can see where they are. Of course, we can keep expanding this to look at the category, family, type, and then the COBie type, COBie name, all the way down to the GUID. But we're going to keep it at a high level and just explore the data in this sense. Now, we see there's 803 items with 13,000 missing mismatch parameters. And this little table down here is basically showing us what the difference is. Like, for example, if I click on this piece of furniture, we see the Revit value here is 6A and the COBie value is 6A. So of course that is the same true value. And often we're going to find that in Revit it's empty, but in COBie it says NA. And what we can do is once we deselect everything, we're going to see that this is what's happening 99% of the time, right? So this NA in COBie and empty inside of Revit is kind of the majority of the data we find in here. And when you look at the COBie data, surprisingly, this report, when you look at the attributes, well, 98% of this, it just says NA. I don't know why the heck you would bring in, thousands of parameters that just say NA all over the place. There's kind of no value to that. But here we are. So, we were able to get the insight from Power BI into this data. Now, Power BI is super easy to modify. So, potentially one of the things we'd want to do is just look at this data some other way. So if we take this graph and we copy paste it and make it into a little pie chart in here, well, we're going to see that data that almost 100% of the time, the issue is this NA pointing to nothing inside of Revit. So is it an error? Kind of. Could it be classified as not an error? Yes, it could be classified depending on what you care about. Frankly, I would kind of flag this because why bring in a parameter if it's going to be empty? So let's remodify a report. We got that little insight, but we're going to bring it back here. Okay, so we're looking at the mismatch data. Let's look at the matching data. So hopefully in a future model, this amount of data will be higher, but that's not the case at the moment. So we can see here, if we drill all the way up, that we're going to have the most amount of matching data in some mechanical equipment, in some specialty equipment, and in some of our doors that are a little bit all over the place. And as usual, we can compare both data, right? Let's look at the true data. So the frame here for this element says STL, probably for steel, and that's what we find inside of COBie. We can also see, once again, the matched value. So steel for steel is good, exterior to exterior is good, etc. And we can see where that data is matching and chop the data in multiple different ways. So what we've done is we've really looked at everywhere there's a match or there's not a match in our elements inside of Revit and COBie. And then we've done the same thing for the parameters and kind of even gave it a total score of parameter matching, right? So we would hope that this model goes from very red to very green. And this data, as you saw, is also very easy to transform and show in multiple different ways so that you can get some insight and especially communicate it to the rest of your team, get the insight automatically. This is not a super long manual process. This is a matter of a couple minutes whenever you do an update. And yeah, just to really automate your verification workflows so that you can validate and fix the data and then exploit the data. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon for our next integration with scheduling. All right, have a great day. Bye.